All right, y'all, what's cracking? Back to you again. Another YouTube video. Shaughnessy did great coming back at you. Something caught my attention today while I'm over here scrolling on X. I haven't taken a shower or nothing. I ain't even fucking, you know what I mean? But, no, so I did come across something just a second ago. And I want to share this with you all real quick. So apparently, I don't know how you say his name. Khan Singati, I don't know, some freaking, I'm guessing some Indian guy, CEO of Nucleus Genomics, has decided it was a great idea to make you able to literally genetically change and alter your baby's DNA before it even, practically before it even comes the fuck out, right? So, groundbreaking shit, terrifying as fuck, but yeah, so basically wants to help parents design their own babies from height to IQ to personality traits. What happens to humanity when we have the power to tamper with life's formula? Now, I ain't gonna lie. This has been a thing that's already happened before. I don't know if y'all heard about, I think it's called like Lazarus or some shit, but they tried to make something that would bring people back to life after they've already been deceased. Crazy shit, but this just reminded me of it, so I had to, you know what I mean, I gotta show y'all this shit. So I want y'all to see what I'm seeing here. So he did an interview apparently with Tucker Carlson. I'm not sure how long ago it was, but I have not seen this in its entirety, but I figured, fuck it, let's get some commentary on it. So we're gonna dive right into this. So first thing, yeah, we're just gonna dive into this real quick.
Thanks for doing this. I appreciate it. I'll just say at the outset, which I told you off camera, I disagree with this conceptually, I think, but I'm also completely ignorant of the details.
Yeah.
No, because on top of that, he's right. I'm not gonna lie. This is one of the most terrifying things I think I've ever seen, because we have diversity for a reason, right? If you get enough people that socially as a group, you know, because socially our world acts pretty much similarly, you know, trends come out, people make something of that, you know, everyone's trying to get a piece of the new pie, the piece of the new flavor. Once you put this in here, God forbid there's a new trend, and people might just start making their kids almost the same. And here's why I see the problem with it. Once you lose diversity in your overall population, that's when different issues happen. There's a disease that comes around, and all of a sudden half the population dies because of, you know, I wanted my kid like that too. And apparently he can change the freaking intelligence and everything else of a person before they even can like come out. You know what I mean? So it's like tampering with your cake while it's in the oven instead of just waiting for it. So I don't know. We're gonna see.
So I kind of want to know what this is before even asking you questions about whether it's a good idea. Can you just? I'll just stand back and let you explain what you're doing.
Yeah. So first, thanks for having me on.
Of course.
So patients, there's one way of reproducing via IVF, right? So you can conceive naturally via sex, or maybe if you're infertile, or if you have some sort of hereditary disease, or for some other reason, you do IVF.
Right.
When you do,
I'm sorry. I specialize in no questions. Can you just explain for people who don't know?
What is IVF?
Chris, please, what is IVF?
IVF stands for in vitro fertilization. Yes. So basically, imagine the egg and the sperm, right? The foundation of life to make an embryo. It's basically putting those things together in a clinic, right? And then basically you take that.
So basically, imagine your kid chilling in the clinic, looking like a super, like a. Okay, so basically, your kid is gonna be chilling in a lab, in an incubation tank. This is just wild shit.
Embryo, you transfer it to a woman, and then an implant, and the woman's pregnant.
So conception takes place outside the womb.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And so during this process of IVF, what you do is today, even if nucleus didn't exist, even if genetic optimization didn't exist, you make several embryos. Okay? So in an IVF clinic, you make several embryos. The amount of embryos you end up making, it varies, but you might have 4 or 5. You actually do genetic testing on these embryos to identify things like chromosomal abnormalities, like Down syndrome, for example. Right? So that's very commonplace. So that's done in basically every IVF clinic.
Of
in the
course.
United States. They will actually screen embryos, the genetics of the embryos, to see if they have some sort of severe chromosomal abnormality.
If
What
they're
we do is
special.
We basically provide more information on embryos. So we also read the DNA, but now we give information on things like other hereditary disease risks, also chronic diseases, things like cancer.
Now I can see a real good use for this, right? Like if we're like, for instance, my grandpa had Parkinson's. If something like this was around when he was, about to come out of the oven, he'd probably still be alive. Actually, he would be. So, I mean, I can see how it can, and on top of that, people can get herpes through hereditary means. So, when there's certain stuff that's good about it, but when you give someone a fucking mile, when you give someone an inch, they take a mile. And that's how I see this going. Like, that's where I see this going. Another one of these, good question actually, is forced sterilization ethnically different from selective breeding? To be honest, no, because selective breeding can still have more diversification in that, right? So there's certain dog breeds that people will put together to make another dog breed, but the other thing is that dog breed that was now just created still has diversification because it wasn't pinpricked and completely picked out what exactly needed to be missing. So I'm not gonna lie. I don't think that's. I think it's. I don't know if it's. I'm kind of on the line with ethically, because ethically I think that selective breeding for certain animals is kind of messed up. Like, I mean, the world is the world, but I think it's kind of fucked up, mainly because certain dog breeds, when you do selective breeding for like smaller ones, for a basic white girl Janet to have her little puppy, and it's got so many health problems, it's worse than a Dodge. Like, that kind of shit, nah. I mean, yeah, shit. Yeah, I think this is playing God, in my opinion. It is definitely playing with the idea of someone's supposed to come out looking one way and was a creation, and you're basically taking it and just saying, fuck you. So I don't know if it ethically, I don't even think it's correct at all, to be honest. I mean, I can understand what disease is being taken out, but ethically, I just don't see it, to be honest. So let's go to this real quick. I want to see a few
Can I
more
ask you a
parts of
couple
this.
fundamental questions?
Sure, please.
So you just said, I think you said, that people cannot create life.
I think nature has a greater intelligence, and human beings, sometimes people would say we are part of nature, but we are nature.
But
Yeah,
life,
that's
you're in the
really-
life business.
I'm not going to lie, that was really fucking stupid. What the hell is he talking about? So if you're going to say, so I need y'all to hear this shit again, what bro just said. Bro just said, people, hold on.
And it basically believes this idea that, again, God has given this consciousness to everything. And I tend to, I actually,
But when you change that, when you change the overall genetic and DNA makeup of a human, it changes a lot of other shit. Like, it changes a lot of other things. Your brain is still hot-wired to what your DNA is. It's who you are as a person. When you change that kind of shit, it alters everything. It has to. I don't see how it wouldn't.
like that a lot. I actually like that a lot for a lot of reasons.
Okay, so can I just ask you a couple fundamental questions?
Sure, please.
So you
Here
just
it
said,
is.
I think you said,
Here it is.
that people cannot create life.
I think nature
Uh-huh.
has a greater intelligence,
Okay.
and human beings, sometimes people would say we are part of nature, but we are nature.
But
And
life,
that-
Okay, so that doesn't really make any sense to me. If you're gonna say we're not like part of nature, we are nature. Nigga, if I say my finger is part of my hand, it's still my hand. I mean, I could be wrong, but what I just heard come out of his mouth was just a bunch of bullshit. Like, cause you can't. This is like, to me personally, this is like one of those things you say when you're trying to get around a question, but you don't want to basically say, well, I guess I'm wrong. because that just doesn't.
You're in the life business, right? I mean,
So-
obviously, you're.
What IVF does, for example, is they use natural laws. We didn't make these natural laws, right? We use natural laws that exist, and then basically, and to be clear, we're not an IVF clinic. We work in IVF clinics, and IVF clinics are the ones that do IVF. We provide more information, but in the context of IVF, you are using natural law. You are not making natural law.
So no, not exactly. I don't think that any part of that is natural law. I think that naturally, if someone's more intelligent than another creature, they can manipulate, use, and alter that creature as they so please, because the other creature isn't smart enough to understand what is going on. Okay? This is like, I don't know, for instance, let's just throw it out there. This is like telling a 5-year-old kid, hey, that's a boy, by the way, hey, so you're actually a girl. If that creature being a small child at this point, does not process or understand the information that it needs to understand what you're doing or what you're talking about, you can't justify that. That's not justifiable. So when you say we're just using science or using nature to do what we want with nature, that's altering the entire structure of nature itself. Nature itself is natural. It's like going you're not going to look at a girl with plastic, boobs and a fake butt and be like, well, we're using nature to. It's not natural though. That's why people have a difference between natural and not natural. This is a non-natural circumstance. I'm sorry, but if you're altering yourself in any way, shape, or form from when you were supposed to come, how you were supposed to come out, what nature has constructed for you inside of your own DNA, your own personality, your own everything, that is no longer natural. I'm sorry, but it's not. You alter yourself, it's not natural. That's fine. There's no fine line. It's a pretty bold fucking line.
You can't make a baby. This is and
Well, I think there's a good chance you may be violating natural
You
law, but
can.
I don't know.
What do you
I'm
mean
not
you
in
can't
charge, but I
make a
just-
child?
I wanna
Women
get to the
make children
fundamental
all the fucking
question,
time.
though, which is who creates life?
And dude,
I think I would say God, but to be clear, so this is complicated, but
You're not the only one who isn't certain.
complicated,
I
yeah.
mean,
I don't know.
we
Obviously, I don't know.
But
I
I don't mean to put you on the
Hold
spot.
on.
Who creates life?
Yeah, I mean,
come on. I shouldn't be even asking questions like this and expecting you to have some cogent answer because I don't think anyone does.
No.
Other than to say God, or to say more precisely, not us.
I think you
not
should
us.
have the answer.
Is
I'm
that
gonna be
fair to
honest.
say?
yeah, that is fair to say, not us, and we operate within that plane. And to be clear, the stories in sci-fi, right, like Frankenstein, for example, or even Jurassic Park, is an example. But Frankenstein, this idea that we can make life, right? We cannot make life. That's the lesson of these stories.
Let me just say, I
right?
think you thought a lot more about this than your average businessman.
I think that he is using business and the business and his idea, which anyone that has a great idea is going to justify it till the end of the fucking end of days. I mean, it's just, it pretty much is what it is. So, but the only issue I have is that when he says we don't create life, so let's put it this way in this format. If we don't create life, then what the fuck is it? It doesn't just come out of thin air. You can't make something from nothing. That doesn't happen. You put two people together, and it's more than science that goes into that. It isn't just that simple. So personally, for me to say, well, we don't create life when I can clearly see it and I don't understand how, when you don't understand where the domain of where that life came from and then you change it, again, like I said before, that's no longer a natural fucking instance. It's completely different. So I don't know if I can really justify where he's standing on that particular thing. But I don't understand that take because, especially if someone's going to say, well, I would think God, well, okay, would you go down the same exact criteria of, well, if God created it, then abortions are murder? Let's be real here. Let's be real. Because, I mean, if we don't create life, are we killing anything? Because now what you basically did is put a no value, for real, on top of life. You're basically saying it just comes out of nowhere. We don't know where it comes from. It comes from some fucking void. Like, that part doesn't really make any sense. Let's see this. The effects of giving parents genetic choice for their child. That should be interesting.
My question is, honestly, what's the effect of giving people this choice, which is to improve, in their minds, you say you're morally neutral on it, not attaching a value to deafness or hearing, but
We're not.
okay. But people do. Everybody does.
Yeah,
everyone other
people
than
do.
you.
That's true.
Everyone other than you does.
No. But
So-
to be clear, we can have more philosophy and then say, but most people will reject the idea that there's this idea of conflating reduced suffering. They would say that's better.
Of course.
And then we can play that out. So let's play that out. Let's play out how it actually is.
you tell me what you imagine, because this is one of the biggest changes in human history.
I will say,
Yeah.
Tucker, I will say again that people will make
Scary.
different choices. I really want to say there's actually two parts to this argument on
dodging them.
people. No, I'm not. I'll answer
Some
the
people
question.
will make different choices, but
Not so. A lot of like.
it's a random distribution of choices. Is that what
No,
you're saying?
It better fucking not be. But here's the other thing that could be good or horrible about this situation. Now, if you were to go to a Build-A-Bear workshop, I don't know, build a fucking Lego set, you would want it to be the best thing you could get, the best thing that But and on track, if you were to be able to pick what your kid had in his DNA, whether he had a better IQ, looked a certain way, acted a certain way, performed certain tasks better than, I guess the average human, everyone would be smart. Everyone would be doing things fluently. Everyone would be doing things in the most effective way because no one would be stupid anymore. Like, let's be honest here. If you're going to make your kid, it's going to be the smartest. It's going to be, I don't know, whatever attributes you want, but they're all going to be great attributes that no one else on average has. So it could do something.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that.
Okay.
What I am saying though is people will bring their. So one way to think about this, like to make it like more intuitive for people, is if you think about like there's this concept in cell molecular biology. Okay, it's called it's basically this concept called it's eluding me. Basically,
shit.
that the more specialized something is, the more effective it is. So in biology, you see things specialized all the time, right? So for example, things begin in stem cells, they become neurons, they become immune cells,
Yes.
They become different parts of the body, right? Because these bodies have different functions, and so you need different specializations.
Right.
Okay. And when you actually, I'm a big believer that like everything mirrors everything, from the molecular to the celestial, everything. Okay. And so let me keep going this. And so, I remember what it is. Specialization breeds sophistication. Okay, that's true.
See, that's
in
what I was
cell
just
molecular
saying.
Biology, which is specialization breeds sophistication. The more specialized something is, the more sophisticated it is. Okay, and so in a society, if you look at like people who are really high in their craft, right, like Alyssa Liu, figure skating, versus like an Einstein, versus like an Elon, versus like I don't know, like an artist like Da Vinci. These people have very different sets of characteristics.
Yes.
And the way nature works.
And they're all like, okay, I want y'all to also take this into mind. If you thought that trans people being in sports was an issue, wait till you start seeing on the news that if you're a lab child, you can't compete. Look. Think about it this way. If you want a kid to be a fucking pro athlete, I'm talking about like that nigga's him. All you'd have to do, for real, like let's be honest, because your DNA can control everything. You can also have mutations to an extent, which I'm sure they could or have already figured out. Purposely put a mutation in there to improve something irregularly. Like, for instance, superior bone density, superior white blood cells, fucking the ability to have better lungs. Look at, stamina, fast twitch muscles, increased strength and stamina. You put all that shit in a clusterfuck of a kid, that nigga's going pro in everything on the planet. And no one's stopping him. What are you going to do? You didn't have alteration in your DNA. What the fuck are you going to do about it?
Is human beings cannot defy nature. it's a seesaw. So let me give you an example. Every single time, people always say this to me. They say, "Oh, people pick for IQ." Let me put aside my moral argument. Let me put aside my people won't actually always pick for IQ. But let's actually assume that's the case. Let's assume that's the case. Everyone will pick for IQ. One interesting thing about picking for IQ genetically is that when you pick for IQ, and this is interesting because when you tell patients this, you can see how they refactor their decisions. When you pick for IQ, you're actually picking against conscientiousness and extroversion genetically. It's a seesaw, right? It's almost like if you're playing like a FIFA My Player or something, and you make somebody stronger, they have less agility, right? So what happens is, and also you're making them
Okay, so
more likely to be.
so we're saying we can only pick
So these
one
things are
ability.
genetic.
There's
You
no
can't-
like,
you can't,
you know what I'm
you
saying?
can't defy these things, right? So these things go in opposite directions. So you start selecting for one, it actually takes these things away. So it starts becoming more of a value judgment.
So what he's saying basically, okay, I can kind of see it. I can kind of see it actually. So, you know, basically, when people, you know, get certain attributes that are better than other people's, like for instance, if someone's super intelligent, a lot of the time on average, they don't talk to anybody. They stay to themselves. They don't like interactions. And I mean, it's certain things that come with it, right? But let's say if you're outgoing or extroverted, I think I said that right, fuck. Then you may, like on average, if we're going to be honest, have a lower IQ. Maybe, and by that I mean like you may not be no fucking super genius, but your IQ will be lowered. You'll be around more people, you'll socialize more, but on average, statistically, people have that seesaw, which is what he's referring to. So like if I'm super fucking fast, I could have another issue. Or like if there's certain personality traits that, like he's saying, which is true, come with nature. Naturally, you have certain attributes that, you know, you just have. Once you change one, it bounces the other one. I can kind of see what he's talking about.
So wait, let me play this out. So let's assume that, to your point, there's a fashion of the day, right? People are, you know, we see this with fashion, we see this in tech, we see this, you know, VC investors, they'll allocate toward AI, you know, people will end up wearing the same thing in Soho in New York, you know, how is this possible, right? People will go to the same private schools, you're saying this, like, all these things end up kind of the taste follow through. So let's assume all the rich people basically start optimizing for IQ, or everyone actually start optimizing for IQ, not just rich people, everyone start optimizing for IQ. There's actually
Which they will.
an evolutionary mechanism, it's called a frequency-dependent selection. What is frequency-dependent selection? What it basically means is that the rarer a phenotype becomes relative to the other phenotypes. So in this case, for example, if everyone picked for IQ, extroversion and conscientiousness starts decreasing, okay, in terms of the prevalence of the population, the more valuable that phenotype becomes. In other words,
Oh shit.
the rarer that extroversion and conscientiousness becomes, the more valuable it actually becomes to actually flourish in a population.
Okay, so bet. Nah, he got a point though. Once you get a bunch of niggas with IQ, there'll be a bunch of smart motherfuckers going around with it. Hella good, they smart. But then the issue is, like think of it this way. Phenotypes, basically, if you were to draw a box, that's not a box. If you were to draw a box, right, put a cross in it, and you have the choice of 4 phenotypes. Okay, and phenotypes are certain characteristics that a person may have. Like, let's, for instance, someone could have a certain color eyes. Or, you know, a lot of people that have blue eyes their children are going to have blue eyes. That's just usually how it goes. But like, for instance, a lot of people don't have like red eyes or, you know, light green eyes, or there's certain shit. So if you were to take one of those out, the more people that have it, the more rare it becomes, the more valuable it is. It's like when people buy a Toyota instead of a Lambo. You can't afford it. No one else has it.
You're arguing it's a self-correcting problem.
And that's the key point, which is we think as humans we can defy nature. We cannot defy nature. We have to operate within nature's bounds, within evolution's bounds. We have to operate within this framework.
So if that were true, then why did India ban sex-selective abortions?
It's interesting because India specifically was about, so let's actually walk through this. India was about 55-45 males to females, 55-45, right? People actually think often it was higher. And by the way, the natural rate of having a boy is actually slightly biologically higher than a girl. So people think it's actually 50-50. It's actually not. It's actually like 52-48. So actually, through that perspective,
Damn.
it is statistically significant, but it's actually not insanely high. And on that point also, which is actually interesting.
Well over 1.5 billion people. It's
Yeah, it can absolutely over generations, but actually it's not. I think what's interesting here is this is just a kind of factoid, but males, babies, they tend to actually have a higher risk of basically dying in infancy. So it ends up happening that if you look at the general population, it's about 50-50, but actually biology has it that it slightly errs toward males. But let's take the sex example. Let's say it plays out that over many generations, people, let's say it wasn't outlawed, people still practice it anyways, and people start picking across sex. It's actually the same phenomena. Whereas the number of males, for example, come down, the number of females come down because of frequency-based selection. Let's say you have a population, just very simply, there's 70 males, 30 females. The value of female in that population is much higher. And basically you can model this and show that each successive generation, there are certain sets of genetics that confer a slightly higher probability then of having a female. And so that will actually propagate such.
So this is actually one of those statistics that I could back up because of the fact that after World War I, when a lot of niggas died, once the soldiers that survived came back, or whatever from deployment, there was actually an increase in male babies on average by a shit ton. And I'm gonna guess the main reason is whatever he's talking about, the gender-based frequency selectiveness, probably, which is crazy that this would even be a thing, but it's probably one of those things where a lot of people recognize that, oh shit, there's been a war, or oh shit, our population's a certain way. Any way you can literally see that if we don't increase the population of this side, both sides are gonna be fucked, like they're both gonna be screwed. So there was an increase, like a super big bump of male babies being born, and a lot of them fucking died. So I mean, that could definitely. But back to the point, though, I think it is kind of crazy that people would think of shit like what's it called, changing like how a kid's personality or like their DNA, because my biggest concern is that, like I was saying before, you can think that trans people being in sports is bad now. Wait till you get to people who are tube babies and they're out there crushing shit because they're basically Usain Bolt times 50. I mean, all you gotta do is change a few fucking things, and they may not be able to talk much or have very many social skills, but damn it, they can fucking run. I don't know. You never know. I just feel like this will only evolve and get worse or better. Just like AI was a thought at one point, and now it's damn near alive. So, but no, yeah. I just had to take a look at this. This is some crazy, crazy shit. First time I've ever heard of anything like this. But yeah, tell me what y'all think.